I was thinking I would not use the microphone, if that is okay. ¿Pueden oírme?
Sí.
¿Está bien? Okay.
Necesitan para la traducción.
Ajá,
Sí.
para que escuchen la traductora.
Oh, that's okay, yeah.
La traducción necesita que
Es mejor. Okay, okay. That's right.
You right?
Ajá. Okay. Buenos días, soy Annie y trabajo para la ciudad de Fort Collins y no soy tan fluida en español, pero quiero presentarme a mí mismo en español. Es importante que sepan que no trabajo con cuencas ni sustentabilidad. Antes de esta conferencia no sabía nada o casi nada sobre las cuencas. Pero gracias a ustedes, quizás después seré una experta. Soy una comunicadora. Me encanta la comunicación y ayudar a otros a comunicar, especialmente sobre temas difíciles. Encuentro maneras para discutir temas con audiencias y diversidades audiencias y luego le digo a los líderes lo cuales son opiniones de públicos. Así pueden tomar buenas decisiones. Ok, lo siento que tuvieron que escuchar mi español, pero ahora es el turno de Eva. Gracias, Eva. Y hablaré en inglés. Okay. Get to meet Fort Collins a little bit. So I introduced myself and I'll also introduce our city. Our population is about 161,000. The growth rate is one of the city's most challenging issues. We predict another 100,000 to move to the city in the next 25 to 30 years. So it's really changing the face of Fort Collins from a large town to a small city. The rapid growth and changing population means working with the public on sustainability is even more important. 51.9% of the population has received at least 4 years or more of college-level education. So we're a relatively young and educated community. Like San Cristobal, we are a college town. Colorado State University is a major part of the community and a partner to the city. It is one of the largest hiring entities with close to 33,000 students enrolled this fall and over 4,000 employees. The city is much different depending on the time of year because of the students. So the summer it's much calmer, the traffic isn't as bad, and then you can always tell when the students come back and the face changes a bit. We are a community of unique characteristics that help build what we refer to as our sense of place, or the traits that make Fort Collins feel like Fort Collins. If you were blindfolded and dropped in San Cristobal from someplace far away, how would you know that you were in San Cristobal? What are its defining traits? This idea may seem vague, and in a way it is, but it is something we believe in and put effort into maintaining. Our old town, which is this picture here, is often seen as the heart of the community, and fun fact, was actually one of the 2 towns in the US that inspired the design for Disneyland's Main Street, so it's pretty lovely. We sit at the foot of Front Range foothills, which offer outdoor activities like hiking, picnicking, and mountain biking. Reservoirs offer water sports such as boating, fishing, swimming, and stand-up paddleboarding, which really became popular this summer. Sustainability in natural areas are defining characteristics of Fort Collins, and part of the reason why so many people love it. Maybe we could develop natural spaces to make room for the 100,000 new people we expect to move to Fort Collins, but we know through public engagement that that is not what our community wants or needs. Our citizenry tend to be active, passionate, and genuinely interested in the projects of the city. and that can be both a gift and a challenge because they're always involved. We can only move forward and grow responsibly by making public engagement a major part of our planning. And luckily, we have been able to do that. Okay, so what do we do, or where do I work for? I work for the Communications and Public Involvement Office in the city. The office functions like an internal marketing firm that serves the entire city government organization. We assist with projects for everything from street construction to updates about ordinances, rebate programs, neighborhood projects, and everything else, including sustainability and watershed projects. For this presentation, I'm going to use natural areas as a main source of examples because, of course, that's the focus of this conference, and the Natural Areas has just done an incredible job with their communications and working with the public, so they're a perfect example. This is the list of our standard communication tools. Most communication plans use a majority, if not all, of these options, but the real value comes from our customization that we add to each project, as well as the continuity and relationship we establish with the people and the organizations in our town. So here are several examples, or a couple examples, of campaigns or communication events that needed broad communication plans. This first one here, as a government entity, we cover a lot of complicated and serious issues, so we like to take every opportunity to liven things up, have a little fun. This picture is a magazine cover that features our popular Pooch Plunge. The last day our community pool is open, we let dogs come in and swim too, because we're going to drain the water anyway, doesn't matter. It's a very fun event. This advertisement, or this cover, actually won several awards from our graphic design team. And as you can see up in the corner, that's the event in action. There's a man playing with his dog in the pool. And then this bottom one here, you'll never guess who that is. That's me covered in all of our West Nile virus awareness items. So West Nile virus is present and an issue in Fort Collins, and since our community tends to be environmentally conscious, spraying for mosquitoes is a contentious issue. So we provide information about the virus, the local risk levels, we send out information anytime we spray, and we also created an educational children's activity and brought it to music festivals, community picnics, and events at outdoor stores or shops that provide gear for outdoor events. So I got to spend a good chunk of the summer. I got to work with kids and teach them how to protect themselves from mosquitoes. And kids were able to dress up in costumes to beat the buzz, and then they were rewarded with a photograph and mosquito repellent. And the kids absolutely loved it, and they actually learned the information, which is the important part. They had to tell us a fact about how to protect themselves before they could have their picture taken. Plus, it just looks really cool. So. Okay, so those are just some examples of how you can be creative to get the information out and connect with different populations. And the structure of our government, or the form of our government, helps us convey the information that we gather and give it to the leadership so they can use it. We have 6 council members, so these are them, 1 per district, that are elected for a term of 4 years, and the mayor is elected for a 2-year term. That's all of them. So transparency is in all levels of our government. We want to make sure people know as much as possible. We've even made changes to our process over the years to help better use the experience of council and better understand what people are interested in. The public opinion and the information we gather helps our leadership make decisions that reflect the priorities of the community and their needs, and we don't want to lose that. So the experience and historical knowledge could easily be lost if there wasn't that overlap so they could share information with each other. Transparency is also built into our other processes. We have a project called Open City, which this graph over here kind of explains. It's an online portal that gives people full access to city information. So this includes everything from budget to email addresses, so any citizen can email a council member or a department at any time. So anybody can find me online, email me in a second, anybody can email the mayor if they want to at any time. This helps us continue to improve also because we're always hearing from people. As a result of this and to keep that continuity, we even changed the way we do our budget cycle. We did that several years ago so it aligns better with this system. All members serve at least a year before they make multi-million-dollar decisions that will affect the city for years into the future. So we make sure they have some experience before they're thrown into making those big decisions. So how do we do our job? How do we decide which communication methods will work for each project? How do we inform the public and make sure leadership knows what the community thinks and needs? We have a set of tools that we rely on. And here is our public engagement spectrum. It's developed by the International Association of Public Participation. This organization is a leader in creating best practices and methods for public engagement. They offer everything from templates to trainings to case studies, and I highly recommend that you take a look at their website because you can find examples that can work for your projects, help train your team. A lot of tools and resources are available completely for free through their site. We used it to help us build our public engagement guide, which I've actually brought copies of today. And I'm not going to hand them out right now, but I'll hand them out at the end. This is a guide that we created. I have a few copies so people can have them if they'd like, but I'm happy to share it electronically with anybody that would like one as well. So you can just ask after the presentation, and I have a card with my email, and you can share it if you would like. But it makes sure that everyone in the organization has equal access to the same information and tools, and they know what our best practices are. This helps us determine how we involve the public. Each of these columns here represents different levels of engagement and helps us decide what we should do. For example, if we are dealing with a routine matter or straightforward information, maybe we only need to inform the public with minimal consultation. If we are starting a new project that could be contentious or have far-reaching effects, then we need to truly collaborate with the community. One thing I've learned and that we emphasize is to never underestimate the interest in your project. I've been shocked time and time again by what people do and don't care about. It changes all the time. Following guidelines like these will help you do one of the most important items in public engagement, and that is setting accurate standards or expectations. So if people don't actually have a say in how something is going to work, don't make them think that they do, because they will always find out the truth, and then it becomes a question of trust, and you have a whole nother issue. Another imperative piece is the support of your leadership. You cannot have meaningful public engagement and use it without the support of leaders who believe in using time and resources to not only get the public's opinion, but also learn from it. Our city manager has said to council that if they want a high level of public engagement or public involvement and support, they need to fund it. And this doesn't mean that it needs to cost an incredible amount of money, but it does take time and tools and patience. Okay. In our public engagement guide, there are several additional tools, including steps to creating a communication plan and what makes a plan successful. Each plan should include aspects of each of these. Always consider transparency and work towards trust. It is helpful to have a clear list like this because you can refer to it at any time. Maybe you have been working on a project for weeks or just getting started. You can always double check and make sure you're continuing to head in the right direction or starting to head in the right direction by having something like this. So what does public engagement look like? The answer is any way you want or need it to. We make games, create activities, give awards, hold contests, anything that allow the community to become a speaker, join the conversation, and receive information. This first photo over here is of an event where we invited an author of a book entitled For the Love of Cities to speak in Fort Collins. His book is about loving where you live and making it your own. So we held one speaking event with him for the city employees and another for the public. And at the public event, people were allowed to say what they love most about Fort Collins. Then each table brainstormed ideas to improve something about Fort Collins, and the winner was given funds to help make their idea happen. In the second picture here, we are attending a youth commission. It's a group that is made up entirely of high school students, and we were getting their opinion to update the city's strategic plan, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. But this is another example of how we make sure to talk to a diverse audience, and targeting special groups like this is one way to make sure to do it. And then at the end here, a young woman accepts an award for her service on another group we have called the Human Relations Commission. One of the ways we honor our citizens that volunteer their time is through awards and opportunities to speak, things like that. We have 26 different boards that range in focus from affordable housing to Americans with disabilities to historical landmark preservation, and they're all ran by citizen volunteers with minimal support from city employees. So they really give a lot of their time and experience to help move the city forward. So this is a bit about our strategic plan, what I just mentioned. But how do we know engagement in natural areas are important? It's because we ask as often as we can. Several years ago, the city made its first strategic plan, and it's a document made by city employees that included community feedback, and it's our 5-year plan organized by outcome areas. All projects and goals are built around these. So this is our 7 outcome areas. So all projects and goals are built around these 7 outcome areas. And just last year, we published our second version, or our first update, and it was after extensive public engagement. So we made sure these still reflected the needs of the community. Each outcome area has a set of objectives within it. For example, our first outcome is community and neighborhood livability, and some of its objectives are to 1, improve access to a broad range of quality housing that is safe, accessible, and affordable, and another is preserve the significant historic characteristics of the community. Citizens were able to rank objectives, so we knew which were most important. They also gave feedback on the process itself, which was a really good opportunity. So if you ever have people participate, make sure they give you feedback on the process as well, so you know if they actually felt heard and involved. One of the ways that you can know if something is working is by participating in it yourself. So one of our greatest tools for engagement and building trust is our passionate staff. We are all part of the community too. We work in government, but we also shop at the same grocery stores, pay taxes, use the natural areas, and we want our families to be safe, just like everyone else. Transparency is constantly a factor in everything we do, and so having city employees present and puts a person behind the decision that the city makes, so they know that there really is somebody that cares and lives in the community doing this. These images are from an event called Open Streets, where we shut down certain streets for a neighborhood festival. And one of our graphic designers there at the end is showing off her decorated bicycle. That's actually the woman that made the Pooch Plunge advertisement. So, Okay, so you can spend all day planning activities and fun events, but you must identify the interests of different groups in your community or you're going to end up with a room that looks like this, a bunch of empty seats. So this is known as stakeholder mapping, or identifying the different groups that have a stake in your project and why they would care about it. Fort Collins places a high value on reaching a diverse selection of people for every project. We put extra effort into reaching people that may have barriers to communication or affected greatly by a project but unlikely to find out about it on their own. This includes people that speak a different language, maybe for you some of the indigenous populations. For us, we have a large Spanish-speaking population as well as a pretty large Arabic-speaking population. So we have tools in place to help them have access to information as well. So who are the stakeholders? Who is interested? We make a stakeholder list for every project, and in order to start, make sure you ask yourself these questions. Who would find the solution particularly bad or good news? Whose daily life could potentially be changed? What questions would you ask, or would I ask as a citizen? And who are the decision makers? Who has that final say in telling you what can or can't be done? These questions will lead you to a list of people that need to be included in your project. And from here, you can map the stakeholders in terms of what the size of their role in the project is and why they are interested. For natural areas, that can include visitors, groups interested in sustainability, business owners, and many more. Fort Collins is well known for breweries, and 2 of the breweries have made pretty aggressive, large, impressive sustainability goals regarding water, so we work closely with them. That's an example of how we kind of tailor the messaging to certain groups. This thing just doesn't want to work all the time. Okay. So knowing the different interests of your community means you meet the people where they are. This is our guiding phrase when it comes to public engagement in Fort Collins. Natural Areas has outlined these goals or areas of interest for their projects. We know that different groups have different interests and different reasons they value natural areas. So we take this into account when we do outreach. For example, people interested in ecology of natural areas were incredibly excited and interested when we reintroduced bison into one of our newest natural areas. So meet the people where they are. Find out organizations that already exist, clubs that already meet. Don't expect or demand that they come to you or a location that you've created. So this is these are some good examples of how you get people to connect with the issue or an idea you're sharing, and why they should protect certain land is what the natural areas is trying to communicate. So how they want to tell people how this will help their community, and it's a show, don't tell method. If someone has been to one of these places and participated in a program like one of these, you don't have to convince them of the value of the location because they already know, they've been there and they've used it. Here are 2 examples of programs that focus on different groups and connect people to the environment. This first one here is an educational program teaching children and building appreciation for nature early on in their lives, which is very important. The next one is there's a local astronomers club. They set up their telescopes in various areas, and the public gets to come and view the stars from our natural areas. I went once and I was able to see the rings of Saturn, the moons of Jupiter, a nebula, and incredible views of the moon. It's completely for free. They all volunteer their time, and people are able to learn about space, hear from experts, while connecting and using the natural areas, which is what it is all about. Yay. So what is the value of nature to citizens? For decades, nature and conservation has been part of Fort Collins' identity, and we have heard and seen from the community that this continues to be a priority. The success of the areas has even won over groups that didn't initially support it, so minds can be changed and there can be more progress. We have watched numbers in usage, participation, volunteers, and voter turnout grow exponentially. And here's an example of one of our volunteers going above and beyond at an event, working with people able to educate them on natural areas. So here are the actual numbers. As you can see, we had 1,800 volunteers donate 15,806 hours of their time, and 18,000 people participated in almost 400 activities. And this is the most recent numbers from 2015. So. We also do what we call our citizen survey every 2 years. The city hires an outside research firm to conduct a citizen survey so we have data about the state of the community. Part of the survey focuses on natural areas, and we use the data to guide decisions and also to inform our strategic plan. Natural Areas also does their own outreach and creates reports on approval and usage. But these are the levels of satisfaction from our citizen survey, which are above average when compared to the region and the nation. So we were actually able to see what people think of these different areas in our city. So how do we finance it in Fort Collins? We primarily finance our natural areas and their programs in 2 different ways. That's taxes and fees. Taxes must be voter approved, and we are able to do this because of our public engagement. Many of the taxes are actually put forth as initiatives by the people, so that makes it even better. But here are some of the numbers, how much from 2015, there was about $13.5 million from the tax, and that's almost 100% of the natural areas budget is funded by a tax the people chose to pay. So it wasn't always that way. When the tax initiative was first proposed in the late 80s, it failed, as you can see. But the success has continued to grow. And that is because of the communication by our natural areas staff and how often they work with the people. So the amount of the tax, as well as the length of time it is approved for, has both grown. And you can see they continue to get bigger and bigger. And the last tax that was approved was actually approved by over 80% of the population. And natural areas had to do very little communication. So you maybe put a lot of hard work in at the beginning, it pays off in the end. We have a tax for outside lodgers as well. Our lodging tax was implemented in 1972 and has generated over $1 million each year for the last several years. The tax affects primarily visitors, so it never hurts to have other people pay for a project, and also is able to fund items attractive to visitors. The city does not directly receive these funds. 75% go to convention and visitor activities, and 25% goes towards cultural development and programming. So they work in partnership with the city, such as the local theater and the event center, but yeah, we don't just directly receive the funds. So these are some of the problems we faced along the way of gaining support for this. And I'm sure if this is something that other communities face as well. This was partly because back in the 80s, the idea was so new that people didn't understand the concept. But another issue was a lack of trust in leadership and council. So that has been something we've really worked on. People questioned exactly how the funds would be used, how it would benefit them, and now, nearly 40 years later, after the first one failed, our most recent tax passed with over 80%, so we're pretty excited about that. These are some of the ways to address the issues that typically come up when discussing these issues. The tax initiatives you saw were led by citizens, and there were bumps along the way, like clear ballot language, discussions about expectations, and always developing that personal connection have led to this success story. Even back in the beginning, when people that first initiated these ideas, even with them, the motives ranged, even in that small group. Some people were very concerned about protecting the nature and the wildlife, while others were more concerned about resisting development and population increases. The citizens drafted their own ballot language and even went door to door to gather support. So it's left up to us, the communicators, to structure the conversation. Everyone is interested in the same thing, and that's how is this going to affect me? And it's up to you to tell them, to get that information. This breakdown shows the typical interests of major stakeholders and in the acquisition and creation of natural areas. And this breaks it down into businesses, developers, and people. What do they typically care about for these projects? One benefit of creating a communication plan and doing the outreach is that you will often get to start the conversation and at least be part of it. So the communicators or educators should always keep these methods in mind. So you're able to just make sure that you keep that your conversation solution oriented. Try and speak about the benefits and then the costs, but don't hide the costs. You want to be sure they're aware of those. The details can often come later. Use examples, and as you work on projects, you gather your own success stories. And be open and very open about the bad parts of the project as well, because that's another question of trust. They're always going to find them out. So be sure to talk about them as you go. Natural Areas continues to work on language, transparency, and building that connection that I've mentioned a few times. They strive to make the community and voters that make this possible the center of their communications. For example, every piece of their material that they print, everything from maps, programs for events, everything has something to thank the community and remind them that Natural Areas belongs to them, all the people. And as you can see here, this map at the bottom, it says naturally yours, which is such a great slogan. I love it. And on the back, there's a full thank you to the voters. And I have some of the print pieces as well, so you can actually look at them. We redesigned the communication for our sustainability goals, our citywide sustainability goals, because we realized that previous messaging wasn't really reaching everyone or including the economic impacts. So being flexible and being willing to change your message is very important. Conversations around sustainability or anything that is new or requires behavior change are always going to be difficult. Fort Collins has implemented programs to help tell our story, and these go beyond Natural Areas. They involve several departments and organization-wide support. These over here on the right, or on the left, are the reason people do have difficulty discussing these. They feel like they can't make a difference, they feel overwhelmed, confused, disconnected. A lot of it is very scientific language, so being sure to take that into account when you discuss these programs. And these are some of the programs that we've created that help further those goals. So those are the examples. That's the end. Gracias.